All right, Jenna, we should be live on the OBS right now. Does that appear to be correct to you, the best you can tell?
Yes, I can see it on YouTube, and the public input sounds good.
Okay, thank you. All right, it is 2 o'clock, Chair.
Okay, the meeting will now come to order. Welcome to the April 26, 2021 City of Asheville Board of Adjustments meeting. My name is Pratik Bhakta, and I'm chair of the board. The Board of Adjustments is a quasi-judicial body that is governed by the North Carolina General Statutes and the city's Unified Development Ordinance. We are authorized to hear requests for variances from the city's Unified Development Ordinance, appeals from final determinations made by city officials charged with enforcement of the city's Unified Development Ordinance, requests for reasonable accommodations, and other requests as may be provided in the city's ordinances. All committee members and staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through committee meetings a bit differently. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the Board of Adjustments page. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone. Dial 855-925-2801, and when prompted, enter code 9255. Again, I'll restate this for anyone listening. The public may participate by dialing 855-925-2801, and when prompted, enter code 9255. The automated system will ask you to press *3 to be heard. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. Now for the roll call, I will go through and introduce all the committee members who are participating virtually. Please make sure to mute your microphone if you're not speaking. When you have a question or would like to speak, unmute your microphone. Please remember to mute your phone after you are done speaking. Committee members, as I call your name, please say a quick hello. Carter Webb.
Hello. Hi.
Bill Newman.
I'm here, thanks.
Paul Wazinski.
Hi.
Suzanne Godsey.
Hi.
Chris Fundanish.
Hello.
Also with us today, and I see she just joined, is our assistant, Also with us today is our assistant city attorney, Eric Edgerton, and alternate board members, Tina White, who will be in attendance as a backup in case any of our currently seated board members have any technical troubles. I'd also like ask that everyone speaking today, including staff, to state their names and titles before speaking. For the agenda, to help our audience follow along, I'll state each section of the agenda out loud and do a vocal roll call for each vote. Additionally, I ask that committee members raise their hand to speak, and I will call upon them. If you need to interrupt, just state the reasoning. The first agenda item is the adoption of the minutes. The minutes of the March 2021 meeting.
Move to adopt the minutes. This is Paul.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I'll move to a vote. Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Wazinski?
Yes.
Ms. Godsey?
Yes.
And yes from me. That's unanimous. Motion passes. Minutes have been adopted. We now begin the evidentiary hearings of the cases listed on the agenda items. In hearing cases, the board conducts a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing. That means it is like a court hearing. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how this board must make its decisions. These rules are different from other types of land use decisions like rezoning cases, which are legislative in nature. This board's decisions are constrained by the standards in the city's ordinance and the facts presented at the hearing. The board hears and considers evidence presented at the hearing and applies the standards set forth in state law and the city's ordinance. The board must base its decisions upon competent material and substantial evidence presented at the hearing. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and standards, not personal preference or opinions. Participation is limited. This meeting is open to the public. Everyone is welcome to watch. Parties have rights to participate fully. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Witnesses may testify as to facts to which they are competent to testify, so long as these facts relate to the legal standards. In addition, lay or non-expert witnesses, witness testimony is limited to facts, not opinions. For certain topics, this board needs to hear opinion testimony from expert witnesses. These topics include projections about impacts on property values and projections about impacts on traffic safety. For variance requests, a 4/5 vote of the board is required to grant the variance. For all other hearings and matters, including adoption of the minutes, the decisions will be made by simple majority vote of the board. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. At this time, we will be administering the oath for all individuals who intend to provide witness testimony. Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to the board in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, Mr. Hurley, our first case. You want to go over the agenda?
Yeah, so the first case, Chair, has been withdrawn from consideration. And so that was removed late on Thursday since we already had advertised. We've left the sign out, and also, we've received some calls, but just to let everybody know that it has been withdrawn from consideration and will not be coming back to this board.
Okay. Okay, then we have the second agenda. The petitioner, Sharon Summerall, on behalf of property owner Asheville Marketplace Holdings LLC and ZH Asheville LLC, is requesting a variance of the UDO in section 7-13-4C B.1.B development and joint identification signs area of the UDO. And the petitioner is seeking to increase the maximum freestanding sign area for the property located at 4 South Tunnel Road.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that citation from the UDO. That was a very lengthy one.
Yeah.
I'm going to present my screen for everyone. So give me just 1 minute to do that. Eric, do we need to take any vote on the first case at all being withdrawn, or is that just enough that it's been withdrawn? Is that correct?
No, because it's a withdrawal as opposed to a continuance, it's fine to just note that it has been withdrawn. The board doesn't need to take any further action.
Okay, I just want to make sure we do not miss a procedural vote there. Okay, let's hopefully let me know. We'll see. Wait for the screen to catch up here. Okay, I'm seeing it on the OBS. So y'all should be seeing the slideshow. This is 4 South Tunnel Road. And the request is the final sign standard, I should say. So the sign is a proposed 231 square foot freestanding sign. The property is on regional business. It's a multi-tenant development. So just to give them all, there is the zoning map. It is sort of kind of like a light pink, but as you see the property in the center with the highlight, regional business, the Asheville Market. We have the Peak Center to the northwest, which is also regional business. And to the left is the Asheville Mall, also regional business. And then I-240 here on the east is not zoned. We don't zone the right-of-ways of interstate. So here's a little bit closer view aerial-wise without the zoning layer. If you'll notice kind of in the left of center, there is an outbuilding closest to South Tunnel Road. That is the Jared Jewelry Store. And just To the left of that or west of it is the existing freestanding multi-tenant development sign. We have a additional road frontage, as I mentioned in the staff report, along kind of this tunnel road ramp. It's kind of like where tunnel road actually splits to intersect with the I-240 interchange ramps. Here's a street view of the existing freestanding sign. There's only one development sign already on site. And I don't want to do the applicant's presentation, but my understanding is this area on the lower end, basically the foundation or base of the sign, that's not actually got any copy area, will be the area of expansion. So they're not actually adding any width or height to the signs. They're just kind of filling in the existing white brick area. And Ms. Summerall can clarify that for us if I'm incorrect. Here is Exhibit 1 from the applicant. This is just a survey showing that they do abut some right-of-ways more than South Tunnel Road. And this is the sign plan that appears to be to indicate that area of expansion would go on the base. And so the shopping center was redeveloped back in 2013, as all of y'all that have been here a while understand. That was the former Kmart shopping center that was mostly removed or demolished, where Whole Foods is at. And then the new freestanding sign was permitted back in 2014 for approximately 155.6 square feet. During our analysis with Ms. Summerall, it seems that we kind of discovered that the sign's a little bit larger than that, but it's still in compliance. So we're not sure if it was a measurement or in a field error, but it's fine. The sign is compliant with current standards. We also double checked, and since it is a second road frontage to the north, they could, if the applicant wished by right, apply for a second freestanding sign along the tunnel road frontage to the north. Is there any questions of the board before I allow the applicant to do or make their presentation?
Mr. Hurley, can you point that out on the site plan where you're talking about?
Which portion, ma'am?
You just said they would be allowed to put a sign in another location on north of Tunnel Road.
Yeah, on the north. I'm sorry. Yeah, we have South Tunnel Road, which is the primary route here where the current sign is located. The second road frontage is this area to the north, very top center of the screen, kind of north where Guitar Center. There's a service road. You see Newhall Creek Lane comes along the north side of the peaks.
Yeah, I'm
it is
familiar
also
with that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, state maintained road. The right of way or the maintenance ends somewhere right at the property, close to the property boundary. But this is state DOT right of way, so that's the second frontage. We would not consider I-240 as second street frontage since it is a limited controlled access roadway.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am. Is there any additional questions for staff? I'll make sure that was clear, but 200 square feet is the maximum size limit for a freestanding sign.
Hey, Mr. Hurley?
Yes, sir.
When you say that you wouldn't consider a 240, did you mean that you wouldn't allow a sign there, or if they wanted to put a sign there, you wouldn't have any problems with it?
Well, I mean, it says street frontage, so we've kind of interpreted it to be like surface street where you could obtain a driveway. We haven't really had a request for like interstate facing signage because typically there's either no doors on that side of a building for the individual tenant. We've not had any, like, honestly, I haven't had a development signage. This one, they clearly have a second road frontage to the north, and that would be the maximum number at all. So if you had 4 frontages that were at street level that could get a driveway on all 4 sides, we would only allow 2 development signs, period. One, you just get to pick the 2 frontages you want. So even if we did allow it on I-240, we still would only allow a second sign, not a third development sign.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully that was clear, but they just get 2. That's all they can get.
So on the second sign, they're allowed the 200 square feet on that sign as well?
It has been interpreted in the past as being half the square footage, since the freestanding sign is at half the height. So they get a second development sign at 12.5 feet tall. It has been interpreted in the past to be half of that as well, half of 200, so 100. That might be another question there, but so it's clear that I'd say we've had past practice that 100 square foot would certainly be allowed. I can say that for certain, that we at least allow at least a 100 square foot sign.
Okay. Do we have any other further questions for staff? No. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and ask the petitioner present.
Hi, everybody. Most of you know me, Sharon Summerall. I'm facilities manager for this property. I was manager of the previous owners and the current owners that purchased this property in 2018. I was not involved in the original pylon sign that went in. I've had several sign companies out there, and everybody, as Ricky alluded to, it's under the 200 square foot that is required, that's existing now, but I didn't know by how much. And I didn't authorize a scissor lift and a guy to go out or a woman to go out and measure it. So I just went ahead and called it 200 square feet, although it's a little under, according to both sign companies, but how much a little under, I don't know. So I just went ahead and called it as the maximum. And the reason that the owners of the property would not like to put another sign in, if at all possible, is that where it's located on that service road cannot be viewed by anybody other than the people egressing or ingressing from that road, and mostly that's going to the peaks, and when Chick-fil-A goes up there, it'll be them, but it doesn't afford the tenants the advertisement that's on South Tunnel, which we're all aware of. So I figured that the least obtrusive way of adding for our new tenants, not all of them, but for 5 more, signage is to remove the existing grasses and add signage to the bottom. And I figured that was the least obtrusive, least impactful, and would require somewhere between, I don't know, 25 to 31 additional square feet. So that seemed to be my win-win solution to a no-win situation of tenants wanting advertising, which I'm sure all of you in this present state of our economy can understand what I'm being faced with in that respect. So I don't have much more to espouse on that unless all of you have some questions to ask me. It just seemed to be the least impactful to add more and see what I could get. So that's my take on it. Hey, Paul.
Would it be physically possible to change all of the current entries on that sign and make them all smaller so that the new tenants would fit on the current sign?
No, not quite all, but I did bring someone out to give me a cost on that to get most on, and it ended up being $62,000. And I thought, I was expecting, that's how I was originally going to go. But when I got the bill for $62,000, I found that, and today's COVID and the fact that we've got 8 empty tenants there right now, with several looking to be a bit of a high price tag for even the owners of this property.
When those 8 empty tenants were there, they weren't part of the signage, right?
There were no tenants there. These have been empty for a while, and what they've done is they've done some retrofitting to make them larger to fit the current that was needed for the current tenants. COVID hit. It was a while to fill this up, and the new tenants have gotten more tenants in, and then they had to make some interior changes to some of the units to allow for the potential new clients, tenants that wanted to move in. So this has been the process of filling up the center, is what this has been.
So just to make sure I understand this, you had a certain amount of space which was originally designed for a certain number of tenants, and it was sort of subdivided to make it accessible to more tenants? Is that the...
Yes, basically. Yes and no. It was from the previous owners to the new owners. There's been, we've had a couple tenants leave, but they were smaller and they didn't have signage. And now we've got a couple of tenants that are going to take up one more space, take up 2 of the 1 spaces, and they want a sign. So it's been a matter of negotiation, space, and potential leasees. That answers your question. Yes and no. Yeah.
So Ms. Summerall, what happens if, this board grants the variance and then you subdivide another space and need to add additional signage?
I've already told everybody this is it. I said, if by some miracle this goes through, I said, that's it. There's no more discussion on signage. You cannot offer signage to anybody new that comes in under any circumstances. So I pretty well, and they are located in Raleigh, and they're understanding the process better. So no, and that is not going to happen.
Further questions? Ms. Gotzi?
So, Mrs. Summerall, unlike other forms of relief that we have in our code, whether it's alternative compliance or conditional zoning, really hemmed in to answering the specific question of hardship. And based on your answer from Paul, I'm going to botch your last name and I apologize. Olszewski. Thank you. You've referenced cost, which we really can't consider in terms of hardship. And you have mentioned that you could reconfigure the different businesses onto the existing sign square footage. So I would be looking at, from the applicant, like, why couldn't you put a sign elsewhere on site? And it sounds to me that it's a preference, not a actual physical hardship to your application. It's more of a desire on the developer's part, on your part, to make this request.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. But again, in the retail business and hardship and cost, I'm looking at, as a contractor my whole life, what I'm looking at is the cost of small businesses doing business, the amount of advertising they're wanting from Tunnel Road, the whole aspect of retail taking a hit. And yes, you are completely correct, 100%. But on the business end of the small businesses that are going in, that we're trying to get the local businesses, like we've got a new running store going in now that is a local, and he would like signage on that. and to identify that, and he's a local business. We're trying to pull in local businesses, and there's a cost associated with that. I'm looking at it more as opposed to the ordinance end of it, as the micro side of it, as a small business owner trying to attract businesses into a space that is struggling with COVID and just retail shopping centers struggling per se. So that's my honest response to that. Yes, you are correct. But that's the other end of it is trying to get the local businesses as much advertising as they can get. And I understood that when I filled this out, the discrepancies. And I've been involved in city stuff long enough to know what I'm asking, and figured that what I'm asking is really not that intrusive. Granted, it is over and above what is required. Now, I understand that.
Well, thank you for your frankness, and I would just say that just based on your replies, I'm having a hard time coming up with an unnecessary hardship for number one in our standards for granting a variance, and that's what I was just trying to suss out a little bit from you. So I'll leave it to others to ask additional questions.
Board, may I interject just real quickly? It's okay.
Yes.
I know, Ms. Summerall, me and you had spoke prior, and you had talked about a couple things. I just want to make sure, since we had talked previously, that maybe there was some like leases that specified like some sizes that you had kind of mentioned to me, I think. And
Yes.
then we had talked about one that, and Eric, you can correct me as well, I think the board could condition the variance like we had one other time where they potentially they could give up or not ever choose the second freestanding sign option along Tunnel Road if they were to give that up. I mean, you had spoke about that, Ms. Summerall. And then maybe we also talked about the size of the individual panels and then the traffic and visibility. So I just want to make sure, because we had those conversations
Yes.
prior, and I just didn't want us to, prior as our pre-application, I just didn't want to miss that information you provided to me as part of the pre-application meeting.
Yeah.
That you not also share that with the board as well. So I don't want to make your application for you or present it, but I want to make sure we didn't forget maybe why are we here if those other facts are missing from the case. I just didn't want you to forget that discussion.
Yeah, thank you I've been dealing with this for 2 years now, and I've talked with so many sign companies, and you graciously came out, I don't know, dead of winter to help me figure out, because I am constrained on leases. I can't change any of the larger signs up there due to their lease requirements. There's a lot of constraints with this, let alone the ordinance issues along with this. It's been problematic all the way around trying to make this work. I wish the previous owners had done more research on move this over, applied for the application properly at the first time. When I went to look through things that hadn't been properly done, or it had been done but without much forethought initially. And so then they promised a lot to Whole Foods and Designer Shoe Warehouse and Guitar Center size-wise. And it just left me in a terrible mess trying to fix it several years later. So
Ms.
thank
Gotzi.
you.
Ms. Gotzi.
Thank you. One of the things I did want to mention, so this shopping center does have a name. It looks like it's called Asheville Market. And just like y'all alluded to the development up to the north, which is called the Peaks, that's why these developments have a name, so that they can be an identifier. So you can say, we're going to go to such and such shopping center, we're going to go to Asheville Market. And I know the perception and I know the leasing concerns and constraints that you're talking about, but I've dealt with this on a couple of other projects, particularly thinking of Gerber Village, and trying to flip the script for the tenants as well as the developer to really market and promote Asheville Market per se, versus you need to have your name on a sign. I just put that out there just as a point of conversation. The other thing that I was wondering is, where would you put your address sign? The sign, the address for EMS is on the place where you're going to be replacing
Right,
it.
to the left. The other side is a line of sight issue. And I've gotten a verbal okay from the fire department that it's okay for me to do that. We still haven't, if this goes through, we haven't figured out whether I have to get a permit for the address to the left. But having talked with the fire department on it, they're okay with it. I just have to find out if this goes through, then do I need to go get a sign permit for the 424, the 4 South tunnel to see if that's, if that needs a permit as well. But the fire department, when I had him out about 3 weeks ago, I asked him, and he said he doesn't see a problem with it. We just can't do it to the right because we have a line of sight problem. But if I take all the grasses down, then there's perfect view all the way across. Right now I've got ornamental grasses parked in there, planted in there, that will obscure just about everything. So
Ms. Summerall, your company took this shopping center over after the leases were already done?
I am a contractor with this company. I was a contractor for the previous company. But yes, this was done in 2014, and then Sapolsky Real Estate purchased it in March 2018. So
Okay.
it's 4 years after the fact.
And so when these new spaces were created, I assume that they were bigger spaces and the signs could handle that at that time because the spaces were enough. But because new spaces were created, there's a need for those new tenant spaces, meaning the amount of space that a tenant needed was not the same as the previous tenants that occupied it. So in other words, out of, let's say, just example, 10,000 square feet, now you have two lease spaces of 5,000 each, which means now you have an additional tenant.
Right.
Right. And so those I don't think are hardships created naturally. Those were hardships, I think, created by the company that owns it to create and sell that tenant space.
And also, we didn't plan on all tenants having space. So that was also, we didn't expect, and we still don't expect all tenants to have space. All tenants will not have space. And so it's changing all the time. Like there was more, there may be more now than there was, but right now we're looking at removing 2 and making 1 larger one for a possible tenant. So it changes all the time out there. We've got a Hollywood Feed that's looking at coming out there, and they'll take up 2 spaces. So it's a constantly moving feast. What we're just trying to do is create 5 more spaces if we can, to allow 5 more tenants, which will not encompass a total amount. It's not going to be available to everybody still.
Understandable. Is there a space where you can go on the south part of where the intersection is, and put a signage there?
Not that I know of. I've walked the property with Ricky, and there doesn't seem to be anywhere other than where he located. I've got AT&T. Okay, excuse me for being challenged with what south is.
Okay.
But
yeah, what I was referring to is, where's the existing signage? Is it right there next to that building in the front?
yes.
Okay. And then what about the southern portion all the way to the southern intersection, right as you, I guess that's a entrance to the Asheville Mall?
No, that is the bank, and then
Yeah.
And then our road at that corner. There's a huge, all our utilities are all located in that corner with a huge pole. And I think that's going to be really problematic only for the utility trenches. I was there when they dropped everything in there, and that is a mess as far as utility goes. I'd be afraid to get anywhere near that corner, personally. I mean, it would work if I thought that, depending on how deep our footings were and how much destruction it would do in that, the utility trenches, everything runs to and from South Tunnel to that corner.
Yeah, the reason I say this is, I understand the thought of the circumstances of your job and the property owner. I just think it's a bit of a stretch for at least my opinion to say it's a hardship, unique to the property, when if the leasing spaces were not downsized, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So it's created by creating more tenants, not necessarily by the square footage of each leasable space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't know when you say downsize, because we've had empty spaces in there for, I've been there 8 years. We've had empty spaces in there 8 years. So Trek is just moving in, and we didn't have a space for Trek. So if you can see that I've got a space there for Trek. Everybody's excited about Trek moving in there, and they're excited about having a spot on Tuttle Road. So that space was empty for 8 years.
Yeah.
So like I said, I could count and tell you, yes, we've had more spaces, and no, we have not been more spaces, because it's been a movable feast. I'm just letting you know that it's changed from here, it's reduced, it's increased over the 8 years I've been there. And basically what we're trying to do, is it a hardship? I don't know what constitutes a hardship on a pylon sign. That's beyond my process to know what a hardship on a pylon sign addition would be. I just know that for the potential tenants that want to move in there, it's a source of part of them doing business, and me trying to accommodate them. And is that a hardship? Well, in my world, no, but in their world, yes. So it's semantics, I think, but that's your decision. And mine to ask, and yours to agree or not to agree on it. I find I'm in a very odd position here asking for this.
I understand.
Mr. Chair, just so that I understand what exactly we're doing, the bottom part of the sign currently exists right now. Is that correct?
Yes.
And all that Ms. Summerall is asking, I say all, I don't mean it that way. She's asking for to happen, if you can go back to the previous slide, Ricky, what she's asking to happen is for the bottom part to look like that.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but it already exists, that bottom part already exists.
That's correct.
Okay.
And in fact, I don't have to do anything. The wiring is there. All I have to do is put the panels up. So it's a matter of just installing panels to something that's already there.
Okay.
Now, originally they wanted an electronic sign that rotated, and they brought in a company from San Francisco to make that work. Most of the tenants did not want that. I did not want that. I just don't think it goes with my precept of what I think Asheville should look like, with a bunch of electronic signs. So they capitulated with me, and I said, let me see what I can do, because I could not, personally, I'm against electronic signs. So, but that's a little more information piled on to us. Been thinking about this for 2 years.
But when we're talking about the current 200 square feet that's on there, that's the go back to the previous page, Ricky. Sorry to keep making you go back and forth. The language that's on there, everything but the bottom piece is 200 square feet of signage. Is that the way I understand it?
Yes, it's a little less than 200, but I don't know how much less. So I just called it 200.
but it's more than 170 or 169.
Probably. The sign woman says 178, I think. But because I didn't authorize a bucket, a scissor lift, and a guy out there, I should have probably done that, seeing how 12 square feet could have made a big difference in this, now that I'm looking in retrospect. But I did not. So because I did not present an exact amount of square footage, knowing it's under, I just called it 200. But in retrospect, I should have probably brought a scissor lift, because the 12 square feet minus the 31 would have made a difference of asking for 21 additional square feet as opposed to 31.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I have a question. Ricky, was that sign measured by the city?
We have not measured it. I mean, we done a final inspection back when the sign went up. And obviously we have a pole to measure, but it seemed like it was certainly, I didn't actually do the final inspection, so I didn't go out there. So I'm hoping we had a final inspection, but it was 155.6 was what the permit was approved for. I actually done the permit when I was a DRS back in 2014. And I've done the whole signs. So
the reason I say this is, you know, if for example, it is, let's say 160 feet and they're asking for additional 31 for the new area down below, they wouldn't need a variance because it would still be under 200 square feet.
Correct.
So
I think we had that discrepancy that the sign contractor come back with 178. So in abundance of caution, once we had this kind of conflicting information, we were afraid to proceed forward with that based on just solely the permit. It's not wholly, it doesn't take much, a couple inches to inflate a square footage quickly. So yeah, you're correct, Chair.
So I mean, I'd be more apt to say, you know, if it's somewhere around 200 square feet with the new signage, it should be, you know, that to me wouldn't be too much of a, you know, stretch for me to say that. And Ms. Summerall wouldn't need to come before us if it could be done by staff to say it's well within 200 square feet.
Yeah.
Do we,
Yeah.
do we want to go measure it, or do we want to just, you know, try to proceed with the motion as it is, or the petition as is?
Well, I think it's up to the board's preference. If you and the applicant would rather continue this hearing to allow staff to go out and try to get our poll and try to measure that, or if Ms. Summerall would like to reach back out to the sign company to get a scissor lift. I mean, I could meet the sign company out there if it's something between the meetings. I'm agreeable to that, the board's pleasure. I mean, that's between you, the board, and the applicant. Staff will do what we need to do to get the information you need.
So, Ms. Summerall, we're not going to put any pressure on you to do anything, but you know, we'll entertain what you want to do. But I'd really like to give you what you want. But it'd be best if you got what you want without needing our, you know, approval.
I agree. Frankly, my thinking didn't see that there could be any problem with just adding to the base that was already there. I should have known better. That was way too simple. So I'm thinking that I should probably call the sign company out and have them measure it, because my only other choice is if you vote no on this, then I have to, I don't know if I've got an appeal process, and I don't really want to do an appeal process. With all the other work I do, I just can't imagine chasing an appeal process for this down. So, and I wouldn't even know what that looks like if there's an appeal on the B of A. I don't know, Ricky, do you think I'm better bringing my sign company out and having them measure it? I think that's a.
Excuse me
I
just
think-
a second, Mr. Richardson, can you explain the appeal process just so she understands?
Yes, Mr. Wilczynski. The appeal process from an order of the Board of Adjustment would go directly to Superior Court. So that would require the initiating of a Superior Court lawsuit. So it's a pretty hefty lift. It's not a simple intra-city matter. It has to go to the court.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'll
that
take the
answers,
process.
thank you, Eric. That answers that question. So that was simple enough. So what I'll do then is, I don't know if I put this on hold and come back again and bring the company out and measure it. And then come back again, I think is probably or if I'm with under the 200 feet, I don't have to come back again. I'm within the criteria, although I don't know if I will be or not. Ricky, is that what your suggestion is? I've been leaning on you on this whole time, Ricky. Sorry about that.
I can't say. I mean, I just my reading of the room. I don't know if you have the 4 out of 5 you need to get this yet.
I don't think I do. So I'm thinking it's best.
And
Yeah.
Eric, you correct me too that if we come back and Ms. Summerall finds out that she only needs 5 square feet extra, since we've already advertised it more, would it be okay? We could continue if it's like 205. Could we come back at that?
As long as it's a downward reduction and not an expansion of what was already requested, I think that would be fine.
Okay. And then another procedural, Eric, I've asked Janice if we've got anybody on the queue for this call. Should we go ahead and take those testimonies? We might have that if there's anybody, or what do you think?
If we think that there's a chance or even a likelihood that the measurements at issue would change, it probably makes more sense to get the exact numbers before taking public comment, so that the testimony or comments received are actually pertinent to the actual measurements that we're dealing with. So I'd advise that if Ms. Summerall is wishing to have a continuance to give her time to measure the exact square footage, that she can go ahead and make that motion at any time, and the board could vote on that, and they would not be required to open up the public comment section.
So does the petitioner have any idea what they want to do?
Yes, I'm going to call the sign company out and
So-
have them measure, and I'll be back.
So your request is for a continuance?
Please.
Do I have a motion from the board for a continuance?
This is Paul, so moved.
Do I have a second?
This is Carter, second.
Okay, any further discussion on the continuance? Then I'll ask for a vote. Mr. Carter-Webb?
We're voting on the continuance?
Yes.
Yes. And aye.
Aye, okay. Ms. Godsey?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Mr. Wazinski?
Aye.
And the chair, aye. The motion for continuance is granted. Just let us know, Mr. Hurley, when, do we need to put a definite date for continuance?
Let me make sure. Typically, it should be scheduled for the next meeting in May, which we'll docket it as. But if for some reason, we know that contractors are very busy right now, so and with the weather warming up, it may be kind of Ms. Summerall's at the mercy of a sign contractor having an available slot. So it may be tentative for May, and I will be in touch, Chair, if
Okay.
they're just not able to get that out there.
Okay,
Thank you, everybody,
thank you,
for
Ms. Summerall.
tolerance of this. Thanks so much.
Okay. We will now move on to the second agenda item. And that is,
And Chair, I think we got a recusal at this point, and we need to swap out a member, I believe, at this point now.
okay.
So I need to recuse myself, and should I just close out of this meeting, or do I wait for the vote?
Let's wait for the vote.
Okay, do I have a motion to grant the recusal.
This is Paul, so moved.
Okay.
Mrs. Carter, second.
Okay. Mr. Wazinski, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Ms. Godsey?
Aye.
And Pratik Bhakta says aye, so a motion is granted. We do have Mr. Fundanish, who will be stepping in for Ms. Godsey. And so we will now move on to the second part of the agenda. Second case, petitioner Robbie Eckley. I hope I said that right. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced it. Agent for owner Daniel L. and Elizabeth Michaelove Living Trust is requesting a variance of the UDO found in section 7-12-4 F1 grading extent of the UDO. The petitioner is seeking an additional 3,965 square feet variance to the maximum grading allowance within the steep slope zone B for property located at 662 Altamont View and Altamont View, yes. Mr. Hurley?
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Chair. I just want to make sure I'm trying to move deliberately here and not move too quick with this presentation. Y'all should all see the 662 Altamont View slideshow on your screen, and I'll just go ahead and move through this first. As was advertised, this is for an additional grading allowance within a Zone B steep slope area. So in summary, the parcel is, let me just say the exact acreage. It is I think it's 0.91. I want to make sure I tell y'all right. It is a 0.91 acre parcel, which is approximately 39,640 square feet. The slope of the parcel is 44.69% per the Buncombe County Steep Slope Tool, and is RS2. That in conjunction together, when you look at Article 7.12.4, the grading allowance for Zone B is 15%. And that has been calculated, as we see up here in the table, of 5,945 square feet. That's inclusive of the house foundation, driveway, lawns, utility connections or cuts required to connect to water, sewer, and any yard or tree removal that would be required to facilitate a house construction. The applicant is requesting, in short, basically the number they arrived at is 9,910. I think they plan in the request to do a little bit less, but they're basically asking for the next classification down or up, depending on how you want to look at it, but they want to do 25% grading for the property. 25% allowance would be allowed for slopes of 39.99% or less. So this one's about 4.5% too high on the slope calculator. So I'm finished going through the slide here. So here is the zoning map. It looks about the same. RS2 is fairly light, but all of the Altamont View properties that are served by Altamont View within the city are RS2. And just here's some contour lines. As you see, those are 20-foot contour lines. They're fairly evenly spaced out for the most part, but it kind of belies the 44% slope. And just kind of another interesting thing that we don't normally see from the board is kind of the interjurisdictional nature. The gray hatched area that's kind of more opaque is the town of Woodfin area that's in their corporate limits. And then you'll see the city of Asheville, and we're our subject property in the center of the screen in the light blue outline. So you see there's kind of like a little of a finger or arm of the city kind of surrounded by town of Woodfin. And just for the sake of curiosity, if you're interested in what the yellowish orange in the bottom center is, That is our former ETJ that we no longer have. And so that is Buncombe County zoning. So there's an island of Buncombe County zoning within the town in Asheville there. So it's an island. So this picture here, and the applicant may have more recent pictures. This is a street view from a few years ago of the property. As you see, there's mature trees on it. And Mr. Eckley and or the petitioner, the owners can explain this table further. But if I recall correctly, most of the properties here have been constructed prior to the adoption of steep slope zones A and B. It's kind of the purpose of the table, and he's demonstrating what existing areas are out there as far as disturbance that basically exceed. This is some Reynolds Mountain requirements. I'll let Mr. Eckley go through that. This is also their slope site plan. They can definitely explain this plan better than I can. And this is their site floor plan as well. And then there's a letter from the HOA attached. Let me go back to the staff report. Robbie, I'm going to go back up here to Exhibit 1 and leave it there for the slideshow. And let me check, make sure I've kind of gotten. Just another notation, the Reynolds Mountain subdivision, this is a portion of that. The property was platted in January of 2002. So this subdivision, as it is platted, 2002, it was annexed into the city June 30th, 2002. So about 5 months later, we annexed it. Now, granted, I haven't been here for 19 years, so I don't recall. The best I can tell from reading the plat, the city staff did sign the plat for this subdivision. So it appears, to the best of my knowledge, that it was within a city zoning jurisdiction, probably an ETJ. But there was also, it seems like there might have been some other interjurisdictional, because obviously Town of Woodfin has a part of the Reynolds Mountain subdivision. And so with that, I will stop talking. Does the board have any questions of staff at this point?
Yes, sir, I do. On the zoning map and the city's, I can't make heads or tails of where the line is for the city.
Okay. So this is the zoning map. So there's this kind of like lightish yellow color.
Yes.
Here's our subject property. This area directly behind to the northwest is actually the town of Woodfin. And then this property is the town of Woodfin as well.
Okay.
And then across the street, the houses directly across the street abutting Altamont View are in the city of Asheville, RS2. Behind this, the larger property to the far right of this screen is town of Woodfin again.
Okay.
And then I'll go back to the zoning map. It's zoomed out, and so there it is in the very center here. You see a light blue outline. There's the property immediately to the northwest. That's the town of Woodfin, the two behind. And then you see the large property that's to the east of the lots across the street. So it's behind. So the Altamont View is the Reynolds Mountain, a portion of it. Clearly, there's a lot more in the town of Woodfin to the west that we do not have jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Any other further questions for Mr. Hurley? Okay. Would the petitioner like to come forward and present?
Yes, thank you guys. Appreciate the time. I'm actually going to turn it over to my clients first for an opening statement, and then I'll take it from there.
Thanks, Robbie. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Adjustment. My name is Danny Michaelov, and this is my wife, Beth. My great grandparents, my grandparents, my father, mother, extended family were and are longtime residents of Asheville. I had the benefit of growing up in Asheville. However, my career took me around the world and gave me the opportunity to live in several states from the East Coast to the West Coast. And my wife and I left Asheville 33 years ago. We had the opportunity to come back to North Carolina, specifically to Asheville. We were excited to find the property at 662 Altamont View to build our retirement home, which for me is in the same general neighborhood where I grew up on Stratford Road. We're here to ask your approval of a variance for our house plans for lot 52 at 662 Altamont View. We're asking for this variance in keeping with the percentage of land disturbance that has occurred with other houses on the street. We believe that you will find that our request is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the City of Asheville zoning ordinance. With the help of our contractor, Osada Construction, and architect Waylon Schomburger, we've gone through multiple design iterations to create a house that minimizes the disturbance and in fact disturbs the least amount of area than any property on the street. We've also made sure to be consistent with the designs and aesthetic appeal for the neighborhood. I personally talked with all of our immediate neighbors. One lives in Florida, so I was unable to talk with them. Some have submitted letters, others are on the call. They're all supportive of us and our request for this variance. I want to thank Ricky Hurley, Plan Review Coordinator, and other staff that may have helped on the specifics of what the board needs in the way of information that's focused on our request. We're hopeful the board will grant our request, and we thank you for your time and consideration of our petition. Thanks very much. Robbie?
Yeah, thank you, Danny. So our process when taking on a client is very much building around the team of our client, their needs and scope of the project. It's a collaborative process in which we bring in architect and landscape architects, geotech, to ensure that we capture not only their movement, but also in keeping with the local code and ordinances that are in place. And also, we ensure that it's an organic process that complements the topography and contours of the property and development, and consistent with the development of the surrounding homes, having a minimal impact of disturbance. With the property that we're looking at today, the current restriction of 15% disturbance currently impedes the ability to meet developing minimum requirements of Reynolds Mountain. In addition to, with the 15% disturbance, there's, after the multiple design phases that we've gone through, there is not a current way for us to meet that, making the property unbuildable at the 15%. So there is a hardship with the current restrictions in place. As Mr. Michael said, if built as proposed, the design would be the least impactful in comparison to the surrounding homes. We've attached Exhibit 1, which Mr. Hurley had put up earlier. That comparison is to the homes that were built prior to the 2007 implementation of the steep slope ordinance by the city. So in looking at those properties, there's only 2 other properties that had to meet the 2007 requirements on Altamont, one of which bought 2 lots to achieve that. That was the only way they could possibly achieve it. So they had to purchase 2 lots to meet that requirement. The other was a builder spec on that property. All the other remaining lots were built prior to the 2007 ordinance. So this would be the only lot that would have to meet the 2007 steep slope ordinance. So this particular property under the 50% would be held to a different standard than the remaining lots on the street, or the other lots on the street. The current application of the steep slope ordinance being 15% max is the 5,945 square foot of disturbance. Reynolds Mountain requires a 2,200 max heated square foot on the main level. That is an Exhibit 2 that we added. When you take the square footage of porches, garages, and additional driveway and sidewalks, you're well over the 5,945 to achieve that under roof, which means, again, limiting or imposing restrictions by the city would not allow us to achieve that. The current design is at 8,900 square feet. So the 25% would take us above that.
Mr. Wazinski?
Yeah, it's my understanding that there are some restrictions that are imposed by the HOA on this whole situation. So let me ask, if the HOA didn't exist, would you still have to be here asking for a variance?
Yes, we would, because based on the current 15% restrictions, is to hit a design with the first floor requirements of a typical design. Because of the height restrictions, the steep slope, we can go main and down, but with the first floor requirements and the unheated square footage, there's really no way that we can achieve a design. And I do have Waylon Schamberger, who's the architect, and he can elaborate on that if he's willing to speak to the actual design and square footage.
Good afternoon. My name is Waylon Schamberger. I'm an architect in Hendersonville, North Carolina. And because of the restrictions, even if the HOA didn't have any minimum standards or requirements, just to maintain a bed, the basic standards of a master bedroom, dining, kitchen, living space with a 2-car garage and an average porch on this, we're still in a limitation, and Robbie can speak to the square footage. We'd still probably be just the heated square footage of the house would probably not even be able to go over 1,000 square feet. Not even that. It'd probably be less than that. If we were, if there were no minimums, there's still no way to meet that maximum disturbance area of a little over 5,000 square feet. The garage makes up 500 square feet, the porch maybe 400, maybe 300, and then the house, there's just not enough square footage left and even to meet those minimum standards.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the petitioner? Okay, I'll close that part of the discussion.
I do have one more comment, I'm sorry.
Okay.
One thing, and really to point out, is the property in the area of disturbance that we're actually going to be improving. The average slope or grade of that area of the property is only 35%. We are taking advantage of the staff level variance, moving the house forward to the front setback. So in taking with the proposed area disturbance at 35%, taking advantage of the staff level variance, we've moved the property as close to the street as possible to have as little impact as possible. Also, something to take into consideration is the back portion of the property, which is skewing the average slope of the property. The road Timberwolf Court in the back, and when that was cut in, it changed the natural grade of the lower portion of the lot. So that also impacted the steepness of the slope and skewed the average overall. But the design as proposed is in keeping with the neighborhood and neighboring properties with the support of the HOA.
Any further comments? Okay.
I would just add, I would like to add to what Robbie said is that, and so we all understand, the only portion that we're disturbing, the land is 35% or less in grade. And the part that's pushing us into the 15% limitation is all on the very bottom part of the lot that will not be touched at all. Just want to make sure that was clear.
Okay. I'll be closing that part of the comments and opening it up for public comments.
We do have one caller on the line. I'll bring them through now.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Kevin Heron, Heron, and I own the property directly below 662 Altamont View.
Kevin, let me just stop you real quick. Have you been sworn in?
I have not.
Okay. Let me swear you in for the testimony you're about to give. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I own the property at 20 Timberwolf Court, which was previously described as Woodfin. I would just like to clarify one thing, that I've owned this property since December of 2005. And Timberwolf Court was not cut in. MSD actually created that space for the sewers for Altamont View. All I did was simply pave over the area that was already cut in by MSD. But we are very welcoming of our, neighbors. We want to see them get the homes of their dreams. But we are on the downside of the slope of Altamont View, and we do have a lot of drainage issues. So I'm just looking for some kind of assurance that when a home is built on this piece of property, that is all taken into consideration and would alleviate any issue that I might have as a result of the footprint of the home, the driveway, and the disturbed areas.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question of somebody? Who is the caller asking the assurance of?
I'm asking the assurance of if the board were to grant a larger footprint, would the assurance come from the city of Asheville, the county of Buncombe, the homeowner? I'm looking for some kind of assurance that I'm not going to have drainage issues as a result of what's going to happen up above me. It's going to create a hardship for me. I have a private driveway that I had to pave, and it's already begun to deteriorate as a result of some of the issues that happen up above. I don't know if you're familiar with the stormwater drainage, but either the city of Asheville or the county of Buncombe just allowed the developer originally just to have open pipes run down the mountain. So I have a hardship. I have to keep repairing my driveway constantly because there's erosion issues. So I'm just looking for some kind of help so that I don't get a larger hardship as a result of this home being built above my property.
Mr. Chairman, I can speak to that if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So the request that we're asking is from 15% to 25%. Regardless of the area of disturbance, there's still a process that the city requires for site plan and approval for stormwater management and site drainage. So with this plan, the site plan would adhere to the city's requirements regardless of size of disturbance.
So this is Paul again. Robbie, are you giving the caller a verbal assurance of what he wants?
Yes, we're going to do what's in best for the property as we make improvements. That's just as a builder and a native of Asheville, the local area, we want to make sure and see that the properties that we improve upon, that it is an improvement. So as we develop the site plan, the stormwater management and drainage is taken into account for that. So we're going to ensure that there's proper drainage based on the development of the property. And that means erosion control, stormwater, and stormwater management.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any further callers? Any more callers?
We do have another one on the line. I'll bring them through now.
Okay.
Hello, yes.
Hey.
Am I live?
You are. State your name and tell me if you've been sworn in.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
We can. Have you been sworn in?
This is George. No.
Okay, let me swear you in, and then you can present your conversation. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, proceed with your name.
My name is George Heiler. I own the property at 670 Altamont View. It's directly adjacent to this piece of property. We originally built our house about 12 or 13 years ago, prior to the slope issue. And I think that almost all the other homes were built before that. I'm getting some feedback, so I'm speaking very slowly. But I do want everyone to know that this lot was designed for, it was cut out, as you've been told, back in 2002. Subsequently, this slope ordinance was passed. This lot is now in the catch-22 of having this slope ordinance that Mr. and Ms. Michaelov are having to deal with. The one thing that I wanted everyone to know is that they reached out to all of us, talked to their neighbors, have tried to work, I think, as best they can to deal with any issues here. It seems to me that lot should be built on. That's what it was designed for. And I think they've done everything they can to make what they're trying to do fit as best they can. And I have just been very impressed with the efforts they have made to try to make this all work. And we'll be very happy if we get them as a next door neighbor. So thank you.
Okay, do we have any further comments or questions for the caller, or that's a lot of feedback. Okay, do we have any further callers?
We do not.
I'm going to close the public comments and open it up for board discussion. Thoughts?
Hey, the one thing that, just looking at the site right there, if you look at the 4,000 roughly square feet they're looking for, that's 40 by 100. And I'm looking at the size of those houses right there, probably about 100 foot or longer there in themselves. So you're just actually adding 40 foot additional grading right there, which is in scope of the way that property is right there, is not a whole lot right there. So, it's like the one we had there last month. There's a little, some of these steeper sloped areas are tough to work based on the restrictions that are put in place based on the UDO right there.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Being in the mountains, it's every lot is topographically challenged in some ways. In this case, we used to own the hotel down below the Days Inn, and I know going up the Reynolds Mountain, it's very steep going up there. and the lots are probably steeper with their terrain. So I know how challenging it could be. Aside from the fact that most of these houses were developed before the steep ordinances were modified. This lot obviously was built according to back then the ordinances then, and it's a hardship in my opinion, meeting the requirements set forth in the 4 questions that this board has to base its approval on. That is, the unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the ordinance. The hardships results from conditions that are peculiar to the property. The hardships did not result from actions taken by the applicant, and that the request for variance is consistent with the spirit and purpose and intent of the ordinance. And in my opinion, I think that these are justified, and I think it passes the test for me. Further thoughts?
Yeah, hi, this is Paul. Let me say that I agree with everything Mr. Bacta said, and also the fact that if we didn't grant this variance, the lot would essentially be useless, and also that what was presented to us was that the owners are not asking for any more than all of the other surrounding houses already have. Lead me to be inclined to support this request.
Anything further? Any other further comments? I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move that we approve the, as what's been stated right there, and approve the variance, please.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, I'll take it to a vote. Mr. Webb?
Aye.
Mr. Newman?
Aye.
Mr. Wazinski?
Aye.
Mr. Fundanish?
Aye.
And Mr. Bacta is aye. The motion passes. The variance is granted. You have 1 year to make use of that variance.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. I don't believe we have any more agenda items left. So with that, I will have a no objection motion to adjourn. Are there any objections to adjourn?
Aye. We're good.
No, we're good. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.